to my channel. I'm Alexa. Today we're making apple fritter cake. I measured out all my ingredients and I recommend that you do so too. You can find full list of ingredients and measurements in the link in the description. Remember to watch the video first so you can be prepared. To start, I'm going to make the cinnamon sugar mixture that will go on top of my apples. I'm going to mix together my granulated sugar and cinnamon in a small bowl using a spoon. Now I'm going to mix it into my apples. I'm using a rubber spatula to mix the cinnamon and sugar into them. You can use a spoon as well. Next, I'm going to make my cinnamon sugar topping. To do this, I'm mixing my brown sugar and cinnamon with a spoon. I'm going to save this now for later in the process. Now I'm going to get started on my batter. To do this, I'm going to first sift my flour, baking powder, and baking soda. This is to make sure there are no clumps. If you don't have a sifter, you can use a wire whisk or a fork. When you're sifting, you can push the ingredients through using a rubber spatula or a spoon, or you can tap the sides of it with your hands. If your sifter has a stand, you should tap the sides of your sifter after it looks like all the ingredients have fallen through to make sure no ingredients are stuck. Today I'm not using a sifter with a stand, so I don't have to do this step. Next, I'm going to cream my softened butter in the bowl of my stand mixer. Creaming your butter means putting it into your mixer and letting it mix by itself so it loosens and actually becomes creamy. This will allow it to combine better with the rest of your ingredients. My butter is sticking to the bottom of my bowl, so I'm going to quickly scrape it off of there with my rubber spatula so my other ingredients will combine better with it. The softer your butter is to start with, the quicker it will become light and fluffy. My butter wasn't as soft as it should have been, so it's taking a longer time to fluff up. Now I'm going to add in my sugar, mix it, and hope it becomes more fluffy. If your butter isn't soft enough when you started, you can see it will still work out. batter is sticking to the sides of my bowl, so I'm going to scrape it off of there using my rubber spatula. My batter is looking good, but I'm going to scrape my bowl down again quickly so my next ingredients combine better and faster. Now I'm going to add in my vanilla and one of my eggs. I'm going to mix this until they're fully combined. I'm going to quickly scrape my bowl again to make sure everything is combining well. Next, I'm going to add in the other egg. Some of my ingredients don't look like they're mixing together well, so I'm going to scrape my bowl down again. Now I'm going to add in about half of my sifted dry ingredients. It doesn't have to be exact. I'm going to mix this until they're mostly combined. Some of my dry ingredients are climbing the sides of my bowl, so I'm going to scrape them off of there. Now I'm going to add in my milk. I'm going to mix this until it's fully combined. I'm going to scrape down my bowl to make sure everything is combining well. Now I'm going to add in the rest of my dry ingredients. Dry ingredients are climbing my bowl again, so I'm going to scrape them off of there. I'm going to mix my batter a little longer to combine those ingredients. My batter looks great, so I'm going to move on to the next step. Next, I'm going to pour about half of my batter into my prepared baking pan. I'm going to spread it out using a rubber spatula so it's in an even layer. Now I'm going to put about half of my apples on top. I'm going to also try to put the apples on an even layer so every bite has some apples. Next, I'm going to top it with about half of my cinnamon and sugar topping. Just like before, I'm going to try to put it on in an even layer. Now I'm going to pour the remaining batter on top. Spread it as delicately as you can as to not move around the apples underneath. I'm going to top that with the rest of the apples and cinnamon and sugar mixture. Don't add the liquid that is formed from the apples. You don't need to squeeze out the apples though. Just don't pour the rest of the remaining liquid into the cake. Press down gently so they bake in instead of staying right on top so they don't fall off when you slice the cake. Next, I'm going to put my cake into the oven. My oven's preheated to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. My cake took an hour and 10 minutes to bake. You should start checking your cake at about 50 minutes. When it's done, you should be able to stick a knife into it and it come out dry. I'm going to put it on a cooling rack so it can cool. Now I'm going to get started on the glaze. Because you need to make sure the cake is cooled off when you use the glaze, I waited until the next day to make it, but you can wait a few hours as long as your cake isn't hot. To start, I'm going to sift my powdered sugar. This is especially important when making a glaze or frosting because otherwise you'll get clumps of powdered sugar that aren't mixed in. Now I'm going to add in my milk. I'm going to add it by half teaspoons until it reaches the desired consistency. You want it to not be too thick or too runny and thin. You also want it to be spreadable. That is so it will stick to the cake and not run off the sides. Now I'm going to put the icing onto my cake. I'm spreading it across using a rubber spatula. Make sure you're doing so gently so the top of the cake doesn't separate itself. I'm going to spread around the rest of the icing with my offset cake spatula. You can also use a butter knife. And my apple fritter cake is done and looking delicious. Please let me know what you thought of the video in the comments and how the recipe went for you. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe so you can see when new videos are added. Thank you and enjoy!